We all enjoy our big fun guns in various FPSs, but some of them mess stuff up. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 overpowered guns that had to be removed, part 2. Starting off with number 10, we'll start this list with an absolute classic, the Model 1887 Akimbo from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. This lever-action shotgun absolutely dominated multiplayer during its time in the sun. On its own, this thing's pretty strong, but Akimbo, or dual wield, they pretty much were unstoppable. These things weren't easy to get either. The Model 1887 was the last available shotgun unlocked, so veterans were able to absolutely dominate noobs with them because they were basically the people who were able to get them. The main issue before the big nerf patch was its crazy range. Like, it could take out guys at ranges far beyond of what people expected for a video game shotgun. Like, combine that with the Akimbo attachment, and you pretty much removed the gun's weak point, which is its relatively low rate of fire. Combine that with all the damage and range proficiencies, you might as well be double wielding railguns. But as far as removed weapons go, what makes the 1887 Akimbo unique compared to a lot of the other overpowered weapons in Modern Warfare 2, like the new tube, is that it was both nerfed and basically removed from all future Call of Duty games. They sort of slowly eased it out. The Model 1887 returned in Black Ops 1 and Modern Warfare 3, but without the Akimbo attachment that made the gun so fearsome, before just basically disappearing from the series entirely outside of showing up in secondary games like Call of Duty Online or Call of Duty Mobile. Closest thing to an Akimbo 1887 we've seen from the series since Modern Warfare 2 is the Rangers that were added to Modern Warfare Remastered. Those things are Akimbo by default, and obviously not as good as the gun that we're talking about right now. It's hard to describe just how huge Modern Warfare 2 actually was when it came out. It was massive, and the Model 1887 Akimbo gained its infamy for a good reason. For a long time, it was pretty much unstoppable. At number 9 was the Gjallarhorn from Destiny. When it comes to truly memorable guns in multiplayer shooters, the Gjallarhorn has to be mentioned. It's up there with the previous gun in terms of infamy. Hell, it might have actually been worse depending on who you ask. Regardless, there is no greater weapon in the Destiny community in terms of being associated with being powerful. It was so good, it became standard practice for a lot of raid groups to require it. If you didn't have one of these rare weapons, you were often just out. It was a no-go, you could not be in the group. People at the time considered this thing absolutely game-changing, and it affected the meta of pretty much everything people did. The goal was to get the Gjallarhorn for a lot of players, and that's when the real game would actually start. The main issue is that it was a year 1 exotic, as described in this very thorough Reddit post by user Jeremiah. Basically, at least during the first year, the only way you could get this thing was through random drops, and when we say random, we mean random. They describe playing the game over 1,000 hours without getting every exotic. That's how rare we're talking here. So how is this thing removed? Well, basically the same user gets into a pretty interesting story about how players suspected Bungie of removing the Gjallarhorn from Xur, the guy who sells a random inventory of exotic weapons. The whole episode was apparently an ordeal in the Destiny community, and it's pretty interesting stuff if you want to check it out. But basically a lot of players felt that Bungie was intentionally trying to keep the Gjallarhorn out of as many players' hands as possible for whatever reason. It was never really proven exactly one way or another what was going on, and with the Taken King, Gjallarhorn's effectiveness was weakened, but for that first year especially, it was considered to be the weapon to get in Destiny. At number 8, the Smart Pistol MK5 in Titanfall. It's a pistol that can automatically target other players. Safe to say, it was a little controversial, but unlike the weapons like the Gjallarhorn or the 1887, where basically everybody knew and accepted them as overpowered weapons, reception to this gun was a lot more complex. There's no denying that it feels overpowered. I mean, it literally locks onto enemies and allows you to shoot them without having any aim, but it has a lot of drawbacks that arguably make it more balanced than some people give it credit for. Of course, to argue whether it's overpowered or not doesn't really matter, because Respawn got rid of it anyway. Well, not completely, but as a primary weapon, this thing was gone for Titanfall 2. Instead, we got the Smart Pistol MK6, which instead of being a regular weapon, became a boost that you could use until death. It's a fair compromise, because we've got to imagine trying to balance this thing must have been frustrating for the developers, to say the least. So yeah, a lot of people thought this thing was overpowered, but others thought it was fine. Either way, it was still basically removed as a regular weapon. At number 7 was Hanzo's scatter arrow from Overwatch. Yeah, this is less of a gun and more of a skill, but screw it. A bow is basically a gun with a string on it. It looks different in a game, but functions very similarly. The scatter arrow works basically exactly how you'd expect. If it hit a surface, it would explode into a bunch of ricochet projectiles, and it was contentious in the Overwatch community, to put things mildly. If you want a decent perspective about how players felt about this ability, check out this comment from Reddit user Mr. Sandman1234. It was seen as an unhealthy ability for the game. It could deal up to 400 damage, so basically it could one-shot a majority of the cast. Enough people hated it that the developers eventually just totally reworked Hanzo's abilities and completely removed the scatter arrow, replacing it with the storm arrow ability that people didn't really end up liking all that much either. At number 6 is the glitched Sentinel from Apex Legends. The Sentinel is a bolt-action rifle with the unique ability to charge up to do bonus damage. On its own, it's not really overpowered, but for a brief moment in time back in October of 2020, the gun had to be temporarily removed from the game because of a pretty serious glitch that made the gun fully automatic. With the gun doing about 70 damage per shot, according to this article in .esports, that gave this thing a huge advantage for a short amount of time while players were aware of the glitch. Yeah, a gun that's normally bolt action, aka pretty slow to reload, turning it into a full auto is a pretty serious issue in terms of balance. In response to that, Respawn just totally removed the gun from the game for a little while they figured out how to fix it. And when I say gone, I mean they even took it out of the firing range. Of course, the gun was eventually brought back, but it was, for at least a little while, totally removed from the game. And number 5, the Prometheus lens. Like, we could probably make an entire list of OP guns from Destiny. There's so many out there. And the availability of many of them is questionable, at least right now. But one gun that's been both nerfed to hell and back has basically been jettisoned from the game is the Prometheus lens, considered by many to be the most OP weapon of all in Destiny 2, at least back in its heyday when it was introduced during the Curse of Osiris expansion. According to Destinypedia, the gun had a bug when it was originally released that for whatever reason made it kill noticeably faster than most other weapons. Like, for one magical weekend, the gun was sold by Xur and a ton of players bought this weapon and jumped into PvP. Like, there were so many people using this thing, the event became known as Laser Tag Weekend. It basically came about when Bungie became aware of how overpowered the weapon was and decided screw it, basically just let everyone have what they wanted. So what happened to it long term? Well, with the Beyond Light expansion, the base campaign, Warmind DLC, and the Curse of the Osiris, content was removed from the game. All that stuff was gone with the promise that they may return to the game later. In other words, they were vaulted. So while the gun can still be bought if it shows up in the Xur store, it's basically out of the game otherwise. And number 4 is the Gauss Cannon from Doom 2016. It's something from a single-player game for once, actually. While the Gauss Cannon wasn't like unfairly strong or anything, you're just using it on the hordes of hell. Clearly the developers took a look at this thing and thought that it was a little too much because they totally removed it for Doom Eternal and replaced it with the basically inferior in every way Ballista. Now, I'm not trying to knock the Ballista here, it's still a good gun, but pound for pound, the Gauss Cannon was just all around better. Like, compare and contrast here. The Gauss Cannon has a siege mode that takes a little while to charge, but it's crazy powerful and pierces through multiple enemies with a single shot. In comparison, the Ballista has the Destroyer Blade, which fires a wide shot and can hit multiple enemies. It's just not nearly as strong. The other firing mode, Precision Shot, is also really good and allows you to snipe faraway enemies with tons of damage, while the Ballista has an Arbalest mode that doesn't zoom as much. Combine all that with the fact that you hold way less ammo in general in Doom Eternal, and you can see why we're saying the Ballista isn't as good as the Gauss Cannon. It feels like a conscious effort by the designers to put in a weapon that isn't as good. Like, everything about the Ballista just feels weaker than the Gauss Cannon. For whatever reason, its removal, it can't be denied the Gauss Cannon was awesome in Doom 2016, and they took it out for the Ballista in Doom Eternal. At number 3 is the Psychov in Warzone. It seems like people want to talk about DMRs in Call of Duty Warzone, but for a short while, those guns had nothing on the seemingly humble Psychov. According to this Dexerto article, the pistol, which was planned to be released around April, actually came a few months early, apparently was showing up in field drops, and didn't take long for players to realize how powerful it could be. After it was leaked early, tons of players voiced their concerns about how OP the weapon actually was. Being a weapon you get from the drop, it was pre-built, built, but being the first fully auto pistol in Warzone, people worried it would be absolutely killer if you used akimbo. It was strong enough already, but because the weapon wasn't actually supposed to be appearing yet, it was removed from the game. When the gun actually did come out, the prediction about akimbo Psychovs being overpowered was really quickly proven to be true. The thing dominated for the week or so, and the developers took it upon themselves to come in and nerf it. It's a gun people worried about for months before it was actually releasing, with many in the community assuming that they do something to make it more balanced before officially launched, but obviously that wasn't the case. The amount of weapons considered OP in Warzone is pretty numerous, but this is the only one that actually got removed from the game, even if only for a short time. At number 2 is the Telesto from Destiny 2. I mean, how can we not at least mention the Telesto, the biggest gun in Destiny 2's history, which, according to Destinypedia, is famous for having some bug or glitch that causes it to be either overpowered, unusable, or simply to be removed from the game temporarily. It's a gun that, for whatever reason, is just constantly causing problems. I found multiple articles related to separate issues with the guns, some new bug, some new exploit, followed by Bungie temporarily removing the gun from the game. Here's the thing, the gun itself isn't the greatest or anything, but the glitches it seems to cause are often very powerful. One recent bug made it so the mines this gun usually fires count as kills when they're destroyed, making it so a lot of players could quickly and easily recharge their supers if they had the proper armor mods installed. Even more bizarre bugs made it so you could use the gun to skip content, or make it so the Telesto would become other guns for some reason. The whole thing's a mess, and it seems to just keep causing problems for the game. And number 1 is the Zapotron gun from Fortnite. We had to put at least one thing from Fortnite on this list because it's a game that, well, the developers love removing guns from. Sure, they're eventually gonna bring most everything back, but this thing, the Zapotron, is probably gone for good. While it still exists in the original Save the World mode, it did not last long in Battle Royale and was removed very shortly after introducing it. There's so little information out there that the Battle Royale version of this gun is honestly kind of hard to find out much about. We do know that it was a charge weapon and it did a ton of damage, like 150 HP from a charged shot, and the developers removed it because of obvious balance reason. This one's a little unusual because it's rare to see developers act this quickly to remove a possibly overpowered weapon. Usually with these things, they get out of control and the community gets absolutely sick of whatever weapon before the game makers actually step in and make changes. But with this thing, they removed it fast. It was in and out of the game in a flash. Who knows? Maybe the Zapotron will show up again in Battle Royale. I mean, anything is possible, but at least so far, more than 3 years on, this overpowered gun was removed and the game doesn't show any signs of it being brought back. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications, and as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.